When bad things happen in life, there is usually a quick assignment of blame. Who's at fault, right? I was driving down to Concordia a couple weeks ago for their church fair to talk about Searchlight and who we were about and all that fun stuff. And as I was driving down, I'm headed down the 55 freeway, and the far right lanes are starting to get a little clogged as it's going to go into the 405. And as I'm doing it, I'm trying to pay attention, like I've got to get over a little bit more, but this lane is blocked, and how do I get there? So I'm like, oh, here comes an opening. It's going to be really exciting. I think I see a spot. So I'm slowing down, and it's great. And just literally out of nowhere, this car whips right out in front of me. And I'm driving the truck, and so it's not a small vehicle. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to hit this person probably doing about 25, 30 miles an hour, and I'm going to hit the driver. Like they pulled out. It's now the driver that I'm barreling down on. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. And all of this is running through my mind. So I quickly jam on the brakes, and I do this thing where I quickly glance in my mirror, and there is a car next to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm a big truck. Maybe if I start scooching over a little bit, like car here will be like, wow, big truck, let me move out of the way. So I'm slamming on my brakes, I'm turning the truck, and as I do, this other car, thankfully, kind of moves out just at the last moment, but I clip him with my mirror. And thankfully, my mirror is a breakaway mirror, which means that if you hit it, it'll just fold backwards. I mean, if it went back so quickly that it broke the casing off the back side of it. But that was it. There was like no scratching on the side, nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, the guy that I kind of clipped and he clipped me, we kind of pulled to the side. And guess who didn't stop? The one who cut me off. You know why? Because I didn't hit him. And I'm thinking, maybe I should have tapped him a little bit. And I'm like, I'm kind of upset because who caused the whole thing? That guy, and now he's gone. And so me and the other guy were talking, and he was like, what, did you get any damage? I was like, yeah, I got the casing on the back. He's, I jacked up my mirror. And so we exchanged some information, but I'm thinking the whole time, whose fault is this? It's the car that's not even there. And we do that in other things too, right? If there's tragedies that take place, over the past couple of weeks, we want to assign some blame. Who's at fault? If you get into a fight with your wife, you're not allowed to do it today because it is Wife Appreciation Day. But if you get into a fight with your wife, or wives, you get into a fight with your husband, when something goes wrong, what's the first thing you are trying to determine? Who's at fault? Who needs to take the blame? And almost always, I'm not going to say always, but almost always, there's a little bit of blame to go around for everyone, right? Now, there's times I've done stuff. Just this past week, I don't know why, I'm super snippy, and I'm super like, with Heather, and she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know, nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you? And it's your fault. You're asking all these questions I don't know the answer to. And she's like, holy cow. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And so that one, I take full, complete responsibility. But for the most part, something happens, and we try to take some of the blame off of us, and we try to shift it to someone else as much as we can humanly stand. Well, today, I'm just telling you right now, you're not going to get out of it. There's going to be parts of this sermon you're not going to like, and because we're going to be talking about a prophecy in Zechariah and exactly what our response is supposed to be when we see what we see. Zechariah, especially in the end, he had the visions in the beginning, he had a little bit of a narrative, and then he's going on to these prophecies looking ahead. And especially in the past couple of chapters, it's all about Jesus, right? He was sold for 30 pieces of silver. That 30 pieces of silver went to go buy a potter's field. We gave it to the potter. These are all then foretold, or that actually takes place. So we see all of these things pointing to Jesus. Yes, they do have an immediate outcome, an immediate fulfillment at that time and place, but it's really, really trying to get the people to say, let's look at the Messiah. Let's look at who is coming and why he's coming and what that's all about and what our response is going to be. And it's going to be tough because, especially with this first part of Zechariah 12, we usually believe there's this immediate fulfillment. No one agrees what the immediate fulfillment is on this first part of Zechariah 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mainly just on how this is foretelling what is happening with Jesus. And I think as we do that, you will see all of this unfold in a really cool way. So Zechariah 12, it says an oracle, a burden. This is something that is weighing on prophets, that weighs on people. When God speaks and he has us do stuff, it can be challenging and we get burdened by it. So this is the word of the Lord concerning Israel. The Lord who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, and who forms the spirit of man within him declares, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged as well as Jerusalem. So we know a little bit of the fulfillment that's going to be happening in 70 AD. In 70 AD, again, Judah went under attack. Jerusalem was attacked and actually did fall. But in this one also, there's these hints of what's going to be happening as Jerusalem becomes something that is amazing. The idea of being staggered, it could be that they're going to be put into a stupor. It could be that people are just going to be amazed at what's going to come out of Jerusalem. This also could be a little bit of a hint to the coming of the Holy Spirit on Pentecost. Remember when they did that? What was their first reaction? Oh my gosh, these guys are drunk. And that's kind of the overtones of this. It's some pretty amazing stuff. But as we focus in on Jesus, it's something that the people had been waiting for so long. And now it's finally happening. The Messiah is going to be here, and you are going to be amazed at what's going to happen. And on that day, when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. And again, doesn't quite fit for 70 AD because in 70 AD, Jerusalem fell. Does have some overtones for future stuff, for the people of God being rendered immovable. This one, though, looking forward to who Jesus is. People will try to destroy Jesus, and they will not succeed. It will not come to fruition. And in fact, he even says, you've rejected the cornerstone, and with the cornerstone, you can either have the cornerstone fall upon you. Does that sound bad? That sounds bad. The cornerstone falling on you, that sounds very injurious. Or you can fall or trip on the cornerstone, and you will experience injuries, but you're going to find out something different. You're going to know who Jesus is and what he's about, and there's going to be some injury to you. And that's going to be my call today. I'm here to injure you a little bit, which is why I don't like it. A little bit of dread on this one as we're coming to this. But Jesus is going to establish something that can never be taken away, ever. It does not matter. The truth of Jesus, his death, his resurrection, the power of the church will always be there. Nothing can stand against it. All right, so we're going to keep on going. Verse 4, on that day I will strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness, declares the Lord. I will keep a watchful eye over the house of Judah, but I will blind all the horses of the nations. Then the leaders of Judah will say in their hearts, the people of Jerusalem are strong because the Lord Almighty is their God. And again, this points to, where do you find your strength? Where do you find your purpose? Where do you find your hope? Where do you anchor yourself? If it is in anything other than Jesus Christ, you will get rocked. Things will be bad. Again, I will never forget, for those of you who are a little bit younger, the church got rocked coming up to the year 2000. Because in the year 2000, we were going to face this dreaded thing known as Y2K. You've never heard this? Y2K? Yeah, like some of you. Okay, Dave, you got, okay. Some of you like you're too young to know what Y2K was all about. It was going to be this global madness because some computer people, when they created computers and they put in the date, only put in 1919 and then, and didn't plan. And so on December 31st, 1999, you did that? So all the fault is on you. Every program that George wrote, and December 31st, 1999 was as far as it was going to go, right? Yeah. From 1970 to the year 2000. Yeah. And so everyone was going to be like, it's going to be global crashes in the market. There was going to be anarchy in the streets. Let me tell you, street lights were all going to turn off. Banks were going to explode, kittens would just take over the world. It was gonna be chaos. What was that? Oh, the kittens thing, yeah. And so there was a lot of fear, a lot of trembling, a lot of trepidation. And I'm sitting there, and maybe I'm just not an alarmist. I'm usually relatively steady, but it didn't really shake me. I'm like, look, I know some computer people. You're pretty smart. I don't think the world is going to stop. But let me tell you, everyone, that there was a lot of New Year's Eve prayer sessions at churches. We were not one of them. And we just let it. And we woke up the next morning and guess what? Everything's fine. And thankfully, cats had not taken over the world. We were super excited. We often get very rattled at stuff. But God has said, I want to give you a faith that is immovable and unshakable. That no matter what happens in this world, whether it's in the global society, in American, California, Orange County, Fullerton society, or just in your own personal experiences, God wants to be the anchor and the rock so that you don't have to worry. And if your strength and your power is in Him, you have nothing to worry about. That's what it means when we talk about horses and chariots. What do you trust in? Do you trust in your own abilities? Let me tell you, that's probably one of my big sins, is I love to trust in my own natural abilities to do things that's going to save me. Other people have great wealth. And so I'm going to trust in that wealth to get me to where I'm at. Other people I'm going to trust in my family to take care of me and make sure everything's okay. Those things go away, but there's one thing that never goes away, and that is God. And anchoring in Him and making sure that that is the immovable one and that you are strong. Why? Because the Lord Almighty is their God. Verse 6, he says, on that day I will make the leaders of Judah like a fire pot in a wood pile, like a flaming torch among the sheaves. They will consume right and left all the surrounding peoples, but Jerusalem will remain intact in her place. Now, this could be a future thing that still is yet to come, but there is also definitely a spiritual component in this, that when the fire of God started to spread, when Pentecost happened and the Spirit started moving out, there was nothing that could stop it. You've heard me say this. It's a great reminder when we talk about who can stand against God. And we've heard the phrase, you've heard the phrase, right? The gates of hell cannot stand against God. And again, if this is your picture, it's the wrong picture. If your picture is, here we are at the church, and there's hell outside banging on our doors, we will stand strong. Now, that's absolutely incorrect. That's not the image. It says the gates of hell will not survive, which means as we move out into this world and encounter things that are dark and deadly and sinful, they cannot stand. They cannot withstand God's power and presence. There are dark places in this world. There's dark places in society. There's also very dark places in your heart. And that's the reason why we don't like to allow God into some of those dark places, because His word will be pure. His word will invade, and we don't want to give up those things. But as this stuff spreads, God wants to take over everything. And that's why he then talks about these dwelling places. The Lord will save the dwellings of Judah first, so that the honor of the house of David and of Jerusalem inhabitants may not be greater than that of Judah. On that day, the Lord will shield those who live in Jerusalem, so the feeblest among them will be like David, and the house of David will be like God. The weakest of you will be like David. I really like David. He's kind of got the all-around thing. Like, he's got the strength, right? He can rip open lions with his bare hands, but he's got the sensitive side too. He writes songs and poetry. Like, he's this really, really cool guy, but yet he is horrible. He's a horrible human being. He's a complete and utter sin-filled man. And yet God says, you will have strength even better than David. You will be strong. Again, not because you rely on your own power, but you rely upon the power of God. That is the only, and so if you are feeling weak, if you are feeling like you can't stand what's happening in this world, and you feel like it's just this barrage of hatred coming towards you or against you, or you just feel that everything is falling apart around you, God says, I will strengthen you and uphold you with my mighty right hand. And you will be stronger than David. Which means when you face the giants of the world, you need not fear, because God is your strength. We so often start with our own strength. We start by trying to solve things on our own. And what ends up happening is, I think God allows us to just exhaust ourselves until we finally come to the point where we can't do anything else but rely upon Him. I think this is exactly why Peter sank. Peter was doing good. He's walking on water. It's pretty amazing. He all of a sudden starts thinking, what is that crazy wind? It's an evil wind. And I don't even know what evil wind looks like, but it was a scary wind. And he starts to sink. And it's almost like God says, I'm going to let you go in your own power and your own ability, but then you're going to start to sink, and you're going to start to fail, and you're going to start to fall. And that's when I'm going to come in, and I will be your strength. I think that's the same thing with the man who is a commander of armies, and he's got all of these people who will be at his beck and call, and he has such authority in the world, but his kid is sick, and he can't do anything about it. And sometimes God takes us to the point of exhaustion and the point of tiredness so that He will then become our strength. A better thing to do is to just simply rely upon God the whole time. And if you figure out how to do that, please let me know, because I still struggle with that myself. So God is going to strengthen you. He's going to be with you, and then He is going to make sure that we take a moment and look at Jesus. Verse 10. And I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication. They will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as one mourns for an only child and grieves bitterly for him as one grieves for a firstborn son. So there comes a point in every Christian's life when we have to take a little bit of a closer look at who Jesus is and that He died. You know, it's one of my pet peeves, yet I still fall into the trap myself. I glibly, with Christian cliché-ishness, say, Jesus died for me. But what does that actually mean? And especially when He says things like, they will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him. There's this strange thing about this going back and forth about, well, who's getting pierced? Is it someone else, or is it God? And that's where we start to understand who Jesus is. And what we need to do is take a look at him who was pierced and ask the question, why is he there? Who's responsible? And there have been times in Christian history that the responsibility was placed squarely on the backs of Jewish people. And there was this hatred towards Jewish people because they killed Jesus. I could tell you who killed Jesus. Yes, it was a soldier. Yes, it was people nailing him on the cross. Yes, it was a soldier who grabbed a spear and pierced Jesus' side, and that's actually talked about in John 19, and it actually quotes back to this verse. They looked on him who was pierced, and the answer is, it was you and me that put him there. Yeah. So, don't turn away. Don't start getting defensive. Don't start thinking, there's worse people in this world than me. Yeah, I get that. There are. There's really terrible people in this world. And you're one of them. And I'm one of them. You, if you have ever decided that you were going to say things that were mean and hateful towards someone else, that's why Jesus is on the cross. It's because of your hatred. If you are someone that has thought a lustful thought towards someone else, yeah, it was you. You did it. You put Jesus on the cross. If you have ever claimed to be a Christian, but then ended up in a situation where you quickly hid your faith and your belief so that you wouldn't get persecuted by the people around you, then it was you. You killed him. This is your fault. This is my fault. If you have ever told a lie, if you have ever misrepresented the truth, or maybe someone is saying something and you don't quite speak up, well, it's because of you. And it's because of me. Because you have misrepresented the truth. If you have ever exasperated your children, children rise up and say, yes, parents, do not exasperate me. Yeah, it's your fault. You have exasperated your children. Children, if you have ever disobeyed your parents. If you, Heather really likes that one. He's just like, yes, children, listen quickly. Have you ever broken the law? Ran a stop sign? Gone over the speed limit? Taken something that wasn't yours? Snuck into a movie theater without paying the ticket? Lied to Disneyland that your child was really under 3 when they were 17? Because they were small. Yeah, we never got a chance to do that. Like, how old's your kid? 3. He looks like he's 22 and he's got a beard. It's not going to work. Have you ever looked at someone and kind of sized them up and down and judged them and said, not a good person? If you've ever cussed someone out who pulled in front of you on the freeway and caused you to hit someone else, it's you. Don't look away. Jesus is hanging on the cross. The blood is pouring from his hands and his feet. Blood is pouring from his forehead. The crown of thorns is embedded firmly in there, and blood is dripping everywhere. He cannot breathe. He struggles as he raises his lashed up backside up and down the rough parts of the cross. The splinters are embedding further and further, causing even more pain. He is starting to drown in his own breath. He cannot expel things properly. Every movement is painful. And why? Who's responsible? You. Don't look at someone else, but they're worse. No, it was you. You did this. I did this. Us and our fake Christianity. Us and our inability to love people who are different than us. Us and our wonderful, great little Facebook posts that are so snarky and nasty. Us and our verbal attacks against people. Anytime we have stepped up and been proud and not humble, and we have lifted ourselves up at the expense of other people, it's us. We did it. If you have not prayed without ceasing, if you have skipped church, if the Bible is nothing more than a decoration on your mantle, it's you. You are responsible. I am responsible. No, right about now, you're getting really uncomfortable. Can we move on to the good stuff? No, not quite. Because I want you to weep and wail. I want you to mourn. Didn't you hear? And I don't want you to be like, oh, yeah, man, I feel real bad about that. No. I want you to feel as bad and as painful as if you had lost your only child. That's how bad our sin is. We should look at it and go, I cannot believe that my sin caused the death of Jesus Christ. And we should look at that and just be shocked in horror. We should be weeping and wailing, so sad that it was our sin that did all of that. I have not lost a child, but I do know people who have. And they have assured me that it is a club that they do not want anyone else to be a part of. It is a club unlike any other when you mourn the loss of a child. And we are now just maybe starting to get a glimpse of how God feels. Because it was God who lost his only child. Weeping and mourning and wailing, we should be crying, and that is something that I think is really, really important. And he talks about even further on verse 11, on that day the weeping in Jerusalem will be great, like the weeping of Hadramon on the plain of Megiddo. The land will mourn the day Jesus died. You should look at that in horror. You caused the death of another human being. I know that that's something that is a lot of people have struggled with and guilt over. You know, you talk to people who have maybe served in the armed forces or people who've served as police officers, and they've had to do the unthinkable, which is take another human being's life. And they have a hard time with the guilt that goes through them because they were responsible for the death of another human being, but that's you. It wasn't just some sniper or some cop. It was you. You directly caused the death of Jesus. Now, I don't know if something ever happened to my son, if one of my boys was killed by another human being, what kind of rampage would I go on? What would you do? What would you think? Like revenge. There is no way that I would let that person who caused the death of my child to walk free and alive. I would be filled with such rage and such hatred and such anger. And we see that as we see people who lose their life, and the people who are still left behind have to mourn and have to deal with, now that person is no longer in my life. And we look for justice, and we're angry. Yet is that what God does for us? Go back. You got to go back to the beginning again. Where he says, I will pour on you grace and supplication. Verse 10, and I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication. He looks upon you who murdered his kid, and he doesn't quickly go into vengeance mode, but instead he says, I want to give you my grace. Yeah, you've said things that you should not have said, and Jesus says, I forgive you. You have ignored him. You have ignored his teachings. You have not gone to church. You have not read your Bible. God has not been first and foremost in your life. You have been filled with hatred and anger and lust and lying all throughout your life, and God doesn't look at you and destroy you, but instead he says, I'm going to pour out my grace on you and your life. We don't look to God and wonder, man, it's my responsibility that Jesus died, and he's got to hate me. No, quite the opposite. He looks at you, and he pours out his grace. I think that this is something that is really challenging for us, and it's supposed to be all of us. Verse 12 starts leading us down this path because, again, we corporately mourn. We often, as a church, as we celebrate Good Friday, or we talk about what Jesus did for us, we look to him who was pierced, but we know that that's not the end of it. The land will mourn, each clan by itself, but the wives by themselves, the clan of the house of David and their wives, the clan of the house of Nathan and their wives, the clan of the house of Levi and their wives. It's Wife Appreciation Sunday. The clan of Shimei and their wives, and all the rest of the clans and their wives. It's everybody. It is not just those horrible other sinners. Stop looking at them. Start looking in the mirror. You are responsible for the death of Jesus Christ. And yet God fully, completely says, though you have killed my son, I love you. My grace is upon you. Jesus died willingly for you and on your behalf. And the weeping comes for a little bit. There's joy in the morning because of the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ. Let's pray.